Coach Alumbaugh. Thank you for coming on, and we've got a ton of guys here, and I understand we're going to talk a little bit of O-line play and some of your option stuff that you guys are so damn good at. So we're anxious to hear what you got to say. Thanks a lot, Coach, for coming in. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Happy to be here, and thanks for having me on, and all the list of coaches you've had on. This is a pretty incredible thing, and tough times for all of us, and it's great to have for all of us to be able to get together. Just a couple little talking points. If you guys have any questions, I'll try and manage the chat as we go along. I'll provide my email address at the end, and if you guys any of the stuff, I don't have all the bells and whistles because I'm not on campus. Like I said, I'm stuck in like you guys are. I'm stuck in my man cave, so the best I can. But any film, any of the paperwork that I have going over our line stuff, feel free to email me. We're an open book. I know some have visited, or I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of you. We're an open book. We don't hide anything or anything like that. Happy to help. And I know I've gotten a lot of great info from a lot of coaches that have been really generous with me. We believe in being very, very generous. In the somewhat limited amount of time that we have, what I'm going to do is just go through the basics of our offensive line. And the basics of our offensive line is the first two steps. Literally 95% of my coaching is spent with the first two steps of our offensive line. For reference, I've been the head coach since 2013. Bob Laddiser, he's pretty well known. I played at De La Salle and took over for him, but I was the offensive line coach starting in 1998. So I've been doing the offensive line. I still coach the offensive line. It's kind of my baby, and one of those things I won't be giving up. And, the purpose of our offensive line, the technique is because we don't get a lot of really big guys. Our offensive line last year averaged about 230 pounds, and it creates the ability for us to be able to realistically theoretically maul people that are our same size, but even more importantly, get some movement and create some success against teams that are a lot bigger than us. And we're playing a lot of teams these days that are a lot bigger than us. And it's getting impressive, especially with some of those teams that we're facing in the state championship and some of the out-of-state games that we had last year. St. Thomas Aquinas and St. John Bosco, those were incredible teams. So it's sort of a neutralizing aspect. What it does is it relies on two things that we take very, very seriously. I normally have a huge list I could put up behind you, but I'll just give it to you right now. The two aspects that we're always looking at: common sense and physics. That is the basis of our offensive line play, and it leads into the first two steps of our offensive line. I'm going to share the screen with you. I'm going to go through. You don't have to worry. You can write this down, obviously. But again, you can email me, and if you want any film, if you want game film, you want practice film, if you want anything that we do, just email me or send a huddle request. If you want film, send a huddle request at De La Salle. And I don't have a lot of minions, so I'm the one that's running the huddle request, so I know who you're coming from. And if you need any of our offensive stuff, I'm happy to give it to you. I'm not going to get a ton into the option right now. If you want to set up a side chat or anything like that, I will happily get into it. The film that I am going to show will be a little bit of option, but it'll be realistically a handful of plays off of our counter tray. We call it our power. It is in every option coach's playbook. And also the plus is kind of what we've been doing with our counter tray. And that has been it's our number one run play, and it's also become the number one play that keeps us alive in those really, really big games against teams that, a lot of times are a little bit more talented than us. And it's sort of our big play hitters, and it's been hugely integral into our offense, and we've been able to run it out of multiple formations now. We used to just be strong right, strong left, 21 personnel, 22 personnel, double tight. We were forced to change due to some of the great coaching and a lot of the great teams that we've been facing in the last handful of years. And to be honest, we didn't know if our offensive line technique was going to work in the spread. But we said, well, the hell with it. We're going to give it a try, and we're going to see if this shit works. And we started implementing it in 2015, and then 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, we added new wrinkles. And this past year, it convinced us that not only is it something that can work in the spread, it's hugely effective in the spread if we're doing it in the right way. So we switch between 22 personnel, and then we'll go empty, 10 personnel on the next play. The beauty of it is our offensive line technique doesn't change. The number one thing that I wanted to work on while we were sort of revamping our offense, we still run the option. But while we were adding some new wrinkles and nuances to our offenses, I didn't want to change what we were telling our offensive line, or else then I thought that we were kind of making ourselves worse. In reality, I think our offense is better, and I think it's a lot harder to face us now than it ever has been before. The first thing I wanted to show you, this is the basis, and this is realistically 90, like I said, 90 some odd percent of our, I'm going to enlarge this for you guys a little bit. 90 some odd percent of our time is spent on this exact technique. And it's on the first two steps. The third step, we hardly pay any attention to. We work the first and the second step of our offensive line technique over and over and over and over and over. We do it in our off season. We do it with the sled, and then we do it in one-on-ones, and then we work it in team. And it's something that we do not deviate from. We don't give our offensive line any way out. And it's very simple. The first step of our offensive line technique, the first step of our offensive line is supposed to be exactly 6 inches, not 5, not 8, not 2.5. It's supposed to be exactly 6 inches. And we show them what 6 inches are. The first step is supposed to be 6 inches of progress from the line of scrimmage, directly from the line of scrimmage. And the aiming point of this step is the play side foot of the defensive lineman. This is, again, assuming that we're blocking a guy that's right on top of us. I don't have time to go through getting to the second level guys and all that, but the technique doesn't really change. Again, the first step. So if I'm an offensive guard and I'm coming off the ball and we're running to the right, I'm an offensive right guard and we're running to the right, pretty straightforward. I'm stepping with my right foot out. And this step, that foot is exactly 6 inches. And the aiming point is exactly where the play side foot of that defensive lineman is. That makes it so if that defensive lineman is lined up directly on top of me, I'm stepping directly forward. If that defensive lineman is lined up, in a shade or even in a gap, that's going to adjust my aiming point, or where my foot is landing, not my aiming point. The aiming point stays the same. We do not deviate from that in any way, shape, or form. That first step, 100% of the time, is 6 inches and is directly at the play side foot of the defensive lineman. The second step, that one is actually pretty easy. Problems that we see with that first step, offensive linemen always want position. We don't worry about position, we worry about movement. The entire focus of our offensive line technique is to get movement on that defensive front. And every offensive lineman wants to make sure that their guy doesn't make the tackle. So they are always worried about position. Position is great, don't get me wrong. I would love for offensive line to have position, but we don't want to sacrifice position for movement. What we see is a lot of times our offensive linemen, the first step will be sideways. So if they have a guy lined up right on top of them, they're worried about, if this play is going right, I don't want this guy to come over over the top, right? So I gotta make sure I jump outside. Well, the purpose of our offensive line technique is if my first step is directly at the play side foot of that defensive lineman, my hips are square to my target. My hips are directly square to my target. I'm going to try and I'm going to change my virtual background real quick here so I can show you guys. I'm stuck in my man cave. I haven't finished painting it, but I think we're all in the same boat right now. So I got my fan going right now. I'm going to try and show you as best I can. So my first step, every D lineman out there, every offensive lineman, I know it's hard to see right now, their first step, they're always going to want to jump outside. And what happens is my hips are facing here now while my target was here. My first step, I want directly at the man that I'm blocking. What that does is my hips are now square to my target. My hips are now square to my target. We do not want to deviate from that in any way, shape, or form. If we deviate from that, we are losing common sense and physics. We are losing common sense and physics if we are actually doing that. What we always try and tell them essentially is, if you were trying to clean, if you were trying to max out on cleaning, right? Where are your hips going to face? They're going to face the bar. They're going to face the bar, right? Why would you have your hips face 45 degrees away if you're trying to lift that bar? Physically and with common sense, that makes absolutely no sense. So we tell them physics and common sense drive what we do. It does not deviate from what we're doing, okay? Now, if a man is out on a corner a little bit, obviously we are going to be adjusting our first step. We're going to be stepping to that aiming point, but with that first step, our hips have to get directly square to our target, okay? That comes into play a little bit more with our second step. Second step is to be approximately, this is the only time we give a little bit of leeway. This is the only time we get a little bit of leeway. Our second step is to be approximately 18 inches in length. It depends on the distance between the offensive and the defensive lineman. Now, this is the key point. Our second step has to be down prior to the defender getting his first step down in order for a successful block. That's really hard to do. We succeed on that about 50% of the time. And I know that's not a huge success rate, but that's the goal. That's the aiming point that we want, okay? That's the ultimate goal that we want. We want 2 steps down. We want 2 steps down. We want our second step down before our shoulder makes contact. We want our second step down before our shoulder makes contact. And we want 2 steps down before that defensive lineman has gotten that first step down. If that happens, then that means our hips are square. We have 2 steps of momentum. We have our feet in the dirt, and we have physics and power behind us before that defensive lineman has even gotten a first step down. If we have that, then we're going to be really, really successful. Now, the distance adjusts a little bit. We're looking at about 1.5 feet. The aiming point of this second step, we want to split the stance of the defensive lineman. What that's going to actually do is ensure that our hips are square to the lineman that we are blocking, okay? What that's going to do is it's going to ensure that our hips are square to the lineman that we are blocking, okay? If our second step swings outside the frame of the defensive lineman, our hips are going to be outside of the defensive lineman's frame, and it's the same thing that we have with that first step if it's sideways. We are now trying to clean or move weight without our hips facing where we're trying to get, okay? With this step, it's essential for the offensive lineman to bring a club, okay? It's essential for the offensive lineman to bring a club. What that means is with our club, our second step, we want it down before contact. We tell them the pad level. I want to eat dinner off your back. Hips and shoulder be together. We got to have a battering ram. We're battering ram when our offensive line gets off the ball. Hips, shoulders in line. I want to be able to eat dinner off that. I want to eat my meatballs. Getting off the ball, so we got a battering. Right before we make contact with our shoulder, our second step gets down, and we tell those guys, as soon as you feel any hair trigger, any pressure on that shoulder, you're immediately bringing a club. And the club, we teach them, the hand is tied to the wrist. So if my play side foot is right foot out, I club with my left, right foot out, I'm clubbing with my left arm, no deviation. If I'm going left foot out, I'm clubbing with my right arm. So if I'm doing right foot out, my first step is 6 inches. Second step, my hand and my hip are tied together. As soon as I feel any pressure on my shoulder, I'm now exploding through. The old offensive line coach that taught me, we said, now we're bringing our pecker to the pad. We're not allowed to say that anymore because it's not PC, but we're all, so we can in here. As soon as my shoulder makes contact, on the defensive lineman, I'm immediately bringing my hips and my club. These two are tied together. So as soon as this comes forward, my hips come forward, and everything comes together, and we exactly mimic a clean. It comes up and through, and then we drop our ass. That's it. It exactly mimics something that they've done thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times in the weight room. Does anybody have any questions about those first two steps that I can go through? I can share the link. The third step, now we're just scrapping and fighting. I can email you guys all of that. I don't want to spend way too much time on that because I want to be able to show you a little bit of film. If anybody has a quick question on that, you can throw it into the chat and I can answer it real quick. Okay. Step progression for our pull blocks. This is also, since we pull probably 50% of the time nowadays, this works for a number of different offenses. It works for any pulling lineman. Obviously, we want to lighten up in our stance a little bit, but not too much to be able to give it away. We do not want to lean, and we obviously don't want to rest too far back in our stance. That's all common sense stuff. Let me make that a little bigger for you. That's obviously common sense stuff that that I think everybody's going to be working quite a bit of. Now, this first step of the pull step is huge. The first step we practice ad nauseum. We work on it over and over and over and over and over again. In this step, the lineman must drive off the instep of the non-pulling foot. So if I'm pulling right, I'm driving off my left foot. What that does is it creates momentum for me to get my weight and my hips square to where my target is, which is the end of the line of scrimmage. So just like when we're doing right foot out or left foot out, whenever we're going play step right, play step left, this is the exact same thing. We're trying to get our momentum and our hips square to our target. Now, the only difference is our target is now the end of the line of scrimmage, okay? And whoever it is that we're designed to block, that changes depending on the offensive play. So if we're pulling right, we're driving off the instep of our left foot. We rotate the pulling side elbow. I'm going to show you guys. Pass it and concentrate on opens towards the sideline. If then it will be a proper running position. If there's two things that go wrong on our pull steps. There's two things that go wrong on a pull step. One, we don't pull that elbow hard enough. If we don't pull that elbow hard enough, if we don't pull the elbow hard enough, our hips are not going to be square to our target. And if our hips aren't square to our target, that first step is not going to be straight down the line. It's going to kind of be up into the line of scrimmage, and then we're going to have to bow back. And now we're creating wasted space. That's not physics. The quickest point from A to B is in a straight line. We want all straight lines, okay? We want all direct straight lines. So two things that go wrong on a pull step. One, we didn't pull that elbow well enough to clear our hips so we're square to our target. Second thing is we don't drive off that opposite foot well enough. So you guys will see this a lot. That guy will pull that arm, but his foot comes straight up and then drops, or he does a drop step, right? And then he's actually moving backwards. Again, that's not physics. We want our first step to create two things. One, our hips are square to the line of scrimmage, down the line of scrimmage, and we have created, take a guess, 6 inches of progress. Our first step should be exactly 6 inches of progress on a pull step. And again, the thing that we're always working on, the technique, it's here, elbow, hip. Square, directly down. I'm square and I'm directly square to my target. I'm not going to go over all the rest of it because that is just basically running down the line of scrimmage and getting nasty and getting into guys. I can send more stuff on that, but I wanted to get into a little bit of film and how we work on this a little bit, okay? So again, first step, 6 inches on everything that we do, besides a drop back pass, which we do about once a millennium, so I don't think we need to worry about that too much. Okay, now, how do we work this? We work this thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. We have a Rogers 5-man, a 4-man, 2 5-man, and a 6-man sled. This is an early season practice, so the technique is not exquisite, which is part of the reason why I chose it. We film all of our sled and all of our one-on-ones. Here, we are working on the 4 type of blocks, straight ahead sort of blocks that we see. We call it right foot out, left foot out, half man right and half man left. Here, we start with it, as we do everything, we start with the right foot out. Now, if we're going right foot out, That means our first step. So if we take a look at it, let's focus on this left guard. He's an easy one to focus on. He's a two-way player for us and played D-line at Eastern Washington. Solid player for us. So his first step, we imagine, since this is a bag, that is the play side foot. That's exactly where the play side foot of a defensive lineman would be. This first step should be 6 inches directly at it. Now, what I like about it is this first step is directly in line with where it's supposed to be. What I don't like about it is that is about a 9 to 10 inch step. What's happening now is he's lunging. I don't want someone lunging. So the good that I see, the first step is directly in line with where I want it to be. The bad, his first step is a little bit too big. What that means is he's lunging. Other things I like. It does look like I could eat dinner off his back. That looks correct. That's something that I actually like. It looks like I could eat off his back. He is creating a little bit of battering ram. I don't love our pad level here. In fact, I dislike it greatly. Okay? Now, if you go and you look at our left tackle, this is an example. Coach Jacoby, there's Coach Jacoby right there, and you got to tell him to lose some weight because he's blocking my left tackle's foot. So I can't show all these coaches exactly what we're supposed to do. Coach Cam grew up with Coach Jacoby. That's how we got a hold of each other. But you can tell what I don't like about this is our left tackle's first step went sideways. And the way that I can tell that is because his hips are facing that way. I do not want that. His hips are square. He can clean that weight. His hips are square. He can clean that weight. His hips are square. He can clean that weight. His hips are pretty square. He's a little out in the frame, but not too much. What I'd like to see now is that second step down before contact as deep as possible. He makes contact right here before he makes contact with his shoulder before that second step is down. I don't love that. And the reason why that happened, why? That first step was too big. His first step was too big. And because of that, he wasn't able to get that second step down. We lost some of our power. Now, if we look at the aiming point, he is splitting the stance of the second step. In fact, he is, meaning this should be directly in the middle of that bag. He's pretty close. He's pretty close. His is bad. His hips are terrible. I can't look at him anymore right now. I'm going to have to move on. Now, like I said, we have a hair trigger. As soon as we make our first step, his club is too far back. His club is correct. His wrist should be right in here, so it's right in line with that hip. As soon as we make contact, the exact movement that we do is hips through back. The exact movement is, again, cleaning weight, okay? So you'll notice that what they're doing is exactly cleaning weight. Now, that third step is just a natural, we don't even have to teach a third step, to be honest. It just falls, okay? It just falls. It naturally falls. As they're making contact, this play side arm gets under that T right there, which would be up underneath the pads of the defensive lineman that we're facing, okay? And that, now if you take a look at this creates perfect physics. This is not even a great rep. Sometimes by the end of the year, these guys will be able to hold the bag up over their head. And that's what we're looking for. This is certainly not bad. It's not perfect. It's not exactly what I want, but it's a decent rep, okay? Next thing we're going to be doing is we're going to go left foot out. Same thing, we go left foot out. That means we're doing right arm club. Since it's the easiest to see, we're going to focus on this left guard again so I can go over some teaching points. First step should be 6 inches directly at the play side foot. This step is, again, a little bit too long. And the other thing that isn't great about it, it's not horrible, but he steps inside the frame. Now, the problem with that, if we split the stance of the defensive lineman with our second step, his two feet are going to be right next to each other. What we term that is he's going to be walking a balance beam or walking a plank. We do not want that. That is not a position of power. Would we want, and this is what we tell our linemen, would you be able to max clean with your feet right next to each other, stacked one in front of the other? The answer is no. So because of that, we do not want your feet next to each other like that while we're blocking. Physics and common sense, that's all we want. Does he make contact before with that second step down? No, he's still late. Reason why he's late, first step is too long. If he would get that first step in quicker, he would be in better shape. Now, our left tackle actually gets his second step down right about when he makes contact with that bag. His timing is better. His timing is better with our left tackle there. What I don't love about it is his hips. He doesn't look like he's going to be able to clean a bunch of weight. Our right guard here, if we were looking, if this was a center, obviously our centers are always given snaps. Our right guard here is decent. First step is a little too big. And that's the problem. So this is something that we're naturally going to have. The two main problems that you have with that first step is either too big or they pick it up and they drop it. I'd rather have the step too big than too small, but too big just creates a little bit of a lunge. I like the hips of the left of the right guard. Hips of the right guard are pretty good. Again, his second step isn't down before contact. So again, about 50% success rate, but when it happens, it's a near perfect block, okay? Next, what we do is we go, Coach, what if a guy's on your corner, which happens more frequently than somebody lining up directly on top of you, right? So what we do is now we're going half man right. So we have them just simply move over. This is our center. He would normally be lined up right here. Left guard, what they do is literally just split all of this exactly in half, okay? Now, what we're doing is that first step does not change. First step, directly at the play side foot. Now, the play side foot of the D lineman, when we first start as they're freshmen, I actually have kids straddle right here so you can see exactly where that play side foot would be. But the play side foot, if this was an actual human, that play side foot would be here. For that left guard, the play foot would be right here. That's the aiming point. It does not deviate. Now, the one thing that we are naturally going to do, because we want our hips directly in line with our target, our hips are naturally going to open up a little bit, in this case to the right, in order for our hips to become square to our target. So with this first step, that first foot should bow out a little bit. It should just not sideways. I just mean it should turn a little bit. This first step should turn a little bit. If we look at the right guard on this one, we'll look at 52 right here. His first step, right now, are his hips square to his target? Yes, that's exactly what we want. And if you think about this with physics, I'm a math guy. I've taught math for a very long time. I'm a math guy. If you look at this, our hips are square to our target. This defensive lineman's hips, technically speaking, are square to grass. If we do this correctly, we have more physical power to succeed on this block. Okay, what I don't like, right guard, first step is too big. And it comes inside the frame just a tick. It's nothing horrible, but it's inside the frame just a tick. Now, since we are going on a man that is further away from us, if we were just doing with right foot out or left foot out with someone directly on top of us, we naturally have to take a little bit bigger of a second step. I love where his second step lands. His needs to be a little bit deeper to have more power. His is decent, and his is decent. But I like that they're all in unison. Right after contact, they're cleaning that weight, same thing that they've done thousands of times in the weight room. We want that second step as deep as it can possibly be. I don't like that his second step's that far back, because he doesn't have that momentum and that power into that defensive lineman as much as I'd really like, okay? So I'd like to see way more progress with our right tackle on this one. If you can see, one of our kids is in the way, but the reason why he doesn't get there, you can see he takes a little baby first step. I'll slow-mo it. He takes a little baby first step. He kind of sideways. Because of that, he's not going to be able to get enough progress into that bag. Next progression we're working on, naturally, half man left. Play side foot for this left guard is going to be here. Left center's here. Right guard's here. Right tackle's here. Left tackle's going to be right here. We'll focus on this left guard just for the ease of viewing. Step should be directly at the play side foot. It is. I like that first step. Again, it's a little bit too big. You're making too big of a first step. The length of our center's first step is closer to 6 inches, but all these guys are a little bit too long in their steps. But I noticed these guys were all returners. These guys were all starters. Our returners and starters normally take bigger first steps. The kids that come up from JV and the younger guys, they normally take these little pitter-patter steps. And you got to train it out, all of them. And this is a coaching point that we use all the time. I like that the left guard, his hips is square to his target. He doesn't quite have his second step down before contact, which is a constant problem. It is almost down. You can see right when he's making contact right there, it's all down. If step was down, man, he'd be able to get that bag clear up over his head, which is something that I would really like. His pad level's pretty decent. When he makes contact, that butt should be a little higher. His pad level's not great. His is decent, not great, not great. Not a great rep out of those guys, but it gets the point across about what we're looking for all the time. We will do this thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I wanted to show, we also do our pull steps on this, which I wanted to show all of you, but we had to delete it because Huddle, we had too much space on Huddle. I will be able to get some film on that, but all we do, if we go back to an original rep here, if they're lined up directly on their bag, so if we were doing a pull left, all of these linemen would be lined up exactly where they are. They would just be facing this way. And then it becomes the exact rep. All these guys would just be facing over this way. And the first step, again, so if they pulled left, that first step would be directly to the play side foot. Now we're just dealing with a left foot out, and everything else becomes the exact same. That's a way that we're able to rep all of our, all of the footwork that we're going to try and do over and over and over. Sorry, I'm not quite there yet. Next step, next progression is we're going to be doing some one-on-ones. All I do, I just give them a count and what way we're running the ball. That's it. They do all the rest. We can take a look. We have a first step, so we can tell that the play side foot is this left foot. So we're going left foot out, 6 inches. The aiming point should be right around here. We can't tell exactly where he's lined up, but pretty close to that. Second steps is should split the stance of that defensive lineman. And we should be clubbing with this right shoulder. Let's take a look. First step, not great, too short. It's a little sideways and a little short. It's about 3 inches and it's maybe 4. And it's just outside the frame. Second step, too slow. See, he doesn't get it down before contact. First step is okay. It's a little bit too sideways. Second step is getting to where we want it to be, but it's too slow. It's not big enough. The aiming point is good. What he does do is he has good pad level and he does good clean. Now, this is where the scrap of the fight just comes in. And I'm just using at him right now to fight. Here we just run our feet. What we like, though, is before, you can tell before that defensive lineman gets his step down, we have 1.5, almost 2 steps. And because of that, if I paused it right here, it doesn't look like our offensive lineman's going to win this rep. But because he has way more momentum and way more physics behind him, he's able to overtake. And the D lineman that we have right now is 300 pounds. He weighed 205. He was a wrestler, which I really wrestler. He ends up kicking his ass just because he's got more momentum. He does the club and he's square inside that guy's frame. That's a pretty good rep right there. Technically, not perfect. Good scrap, but I can tell what he's doing on technique. This is very early in the year. This is like a very early season rep, okay? Next offensive rep. I just point what way they're going, and I point what way they're going and what count. Now, here we're going right foot out, so the play side step is over here. Aiming point should be a little bit more in here. His first step lands about where I want it. It actually is about 6 inches, maybe a little bit more. It's probably about 9. But what I don't like is his toe is pointed this way. The only reason why his toe should be pointed out that way is if this man was lined up out here. I don't like that his toe is pointed out. And, naturally, kids, you can tell he's a naturally duck-footed kid. Again, that's tough to train out of him, but the aiming point doesn't change. Second step is almost down on contact. You can see that he almost gets that second step down on contact. I like that his hand, his wrist, and his hip are connected. That hand and the hip are connected. He gets up under the frame. His pad level is good, and you can tell we're going to win this one because he's getting rocked back. That defensive lineman does not, in any way, shape, or form, have 2 steps down before contact here. He's hardly even taken 1 step. We have 2 steps down. We're into his frame, and we're into that guy's frame, and we're in good shape. Now, what's not good is that gentleman has offers from like Auburn and everywhere else. And he's my third string center. He's a scrapper, but if we were actually running a play here, we would have some success because he neutralizes this guy. This is an example of even the scrappers can fight and they can give you some yards. Just because of the fight and the technique, this running back, by the time this defensive lineman's able to do anything, that running back would be gone on any play that we have, okay? Next one. Play side foot is to the left. Play side foot is left. His first step is decent in length. What I don't like is it's outside the frame. Second step, because his first step is outside the frame, his second step naturally swings a little bit, which I don't like. His second step is not down before contact, but he's trying to get it down. What is good is his club is good. You can tell he's cleaning here. And he's making progress before this defensive lineman can get his right foot down. You see this defensive lineman never actually gets his right foot down. It's up in the air the entire time because our offensive lineman was able to get that first step down and that second step moving with momentum. Again, perfect world, I want that second step down before contact. It's a very imperfect world, and this is an early season rep, and it's going to take thousands of reps in order to get it exactly how we want. But overall, still a pretty good rep. What I don't like is we always want movement. And what I wanted was him moving back this way into Coach Jacoby right there. I wanted him being moved back. Instead, he's kind of moved sideways. He's creating a pile. Not a great rep, but it is a physical rep. Okay, here we have a left foot out. This one's pretty decent. This is about 6 inches. It's a little bit outside the frame. Because his first step's a little outside the frame, our second step is swinging a little bit. It should be down right here. Man, he could have had an almost perfect rep here if that first step would have been exactly, directly, 100% at his play side foot. It should be landing right here. Then that second step would have been coming and landing right up underneath his pills, and we would have been in great shape. What is good is we got a good club, and then after that we fight, we run our feet, keep our hips square into our target. You'll see the only thing that I teach after we have those first two steps, keep your hips square to your target and fight like hell. That's it. Run your feet, fight like hell, but you got to keep your hips square to your target. Where you always get holds is when your hips start going outside the frame and you reach for the guy. After we have those first two steps, all we teach, keep your hips square to your target, run your feet, fight like hell. And he's able to do that, and because of that, he gets a pretty decent rep. Not great, but pretty decent. That's a repeat. Let's see here. Okay, now, any major questions about that? And then I'm going to go into this, how it kind of plays off when we're going into some game film. And I'll be able to go through about 10, 15 minutes of game film, and then I'll wrap it up, put my email address down. If anybody has any questions, I can circle back with that. If there's any major questions, try and put it in the chat, and I'll try and answer it as best I can. Grainy footage. This is from 2010. This is when we were playing Servite in the state championship game. Just for reference, we're in about 4 inches of mud here, and it didn't matter. You'll see that nobody's actually slipping or anything here. Now, I want you to see, this is a tandem block. I will show you, I can send you the exact details of our tandem block. It's a partner block where we come off on the second level. Again, we're limited by an hour, so I can't get into all of it. I will send you the coaching points on all of those. But what you can see, I want you to take a look at the right guard and the right tackle, those two guys. Their technique, take a look at their pad level, their get off, and you can tell their hips are square to their target right after that first step, right? That's exactly what we're looking for. This is our counter tray here. This is our counter tray. This one's done at elbow tight, which is solid. We love it. This is a great counter tray for us. What I like, if we take a look at our pulling guard and our left tackle, first step, both those guys, look at them pop that elbow. Pop, pop. Both those guys hit the square straight down that line of scrimmage. They are ready to get down that line of scrimmage. They are now running at full speed, and they're picking up guys that we need them to, okay? So again, right guard, right tackle, those guys are knifing off the ball. They're getting into second level guys. If you take a look at this right guard, look at his technique. He's into this guy's frame. He continues on. Then we got a tandem block. He relowers his pads. Boom. Now, this is the same technique when we're blocking a second level guy. We want to get our club foot. In this case, he's clubbing with his left arm. So we want to get that left foot as deep into the frame, into that second level guy, which is the linebacker here, as possible. And because we've repped this thousands of times on the one-on-ones, and we've repped it thousands of times on the sled, this becomes second nature. Boom, look at him. He's got those feet into his frame, and he's creating way more running room, okay? Our end zone cam at this time was not great. Once we get to some of the newer film, you'll be able to see it. Again, great example of our counter tray. Here's who I want you to look at. Tight end right here. This is technically outstanding. He was a great player for us, a two-way guy. Played inside linebacker. He played inside linebacker for Boise State after this. Now, if you look at this, this is a half-man right off the sled, right? This is actually the play side foot, okay? That's the play side foot because he's doing a down block. We're doing a counter. He's got to do a down block. So the play side foot is way down here. Watch the technique of that tight end. First step, 6 inches, right foot to the play side foot. Second step, splitting the stance of the defensive lineman and getting as deep as possible. Boom. Then keep your hips square to your target, your feet like hell. Look at what he does to that guy. That is exactly what we want. You can take a look at our pulling guard and our pulling tackle, our right guard and our right tackle. First step, boom. Their hips are square down that line. And you can tell this is the mentality that we want to have with our linemen. We never slow down. We do not slow down unless it's a drop back pass, which we don't do a lot of. You don't slow down. You don't guess. If you're pulling, get your ass down that line of scrimmage. We have, of course, rules. But first off colored jersey, here's the number one rule. First off colored jersey you see, get up into him. And you'll see our pulling guard. This guy was a phenomenal player for us. Watch him here. He gets down this line of scrimmage, number 67 here. Watch what he's doing here, and boom. Wouldn't teach that anymore because we don't want to lead with the head. Never taught him that, but it just kind of came natural for him. But here you can see he's trying to get that club foot, which is a left foot and left club as deep as he can so we can get up into that guy's frame. Our pulling tackle peels up, same thing. His club is with his left foot, so he's trying to kick that. You can see him kicking this foot as deep as he possibly can into that guy's frame, and he's clubbing with that left arm. Look at that pad level he gets that guy in. That's exactly what we want. I loved coaching those guys. Those guys were scrappers, man. And when you get guys that scrap like that, you get runners that'll run their asses off. Here's a good look at our tight end's footwork here. You can see this is huge half-man right down here. Boom, bop, and he's able to cave that guy all down. I could have run through that hole. And you can take a look here. There's a good club by that left, by both our pulling guard and our pulling tackle. Boom and boom. They got pad level and position on both of them. Now, what this does is it creates an opportunity where this, off of our counter tray, it creates an opportunity for you to do any play action pass that you want. So if we are running I have one of my position coaches looking. As soon as everyone that's in the box has committed to our power, our counter tray, as soon as everybody is committed to that, what I do is we do a play action. We have a bunch of different play actions off them. I can share all the ones that we have. We don't have time to get through it right now. We will pull both the guard or the guard and the tackle, depending on who you're playing and what you think is going to be best. We didn't pull everybody here because it's best to just keep that left tackle in the frame of that guy. What happens, though, right on the snap of the football, because our offensive line is firing off the ball and getting where we need them to, they could still even get off the ball better. Our right guard, I'm not happy with. He needs to get off the ball better. But they got off the ball right on the snap of the ball. Take a look at this. There's 8 white jerseys on the line of scrimmage. When there's 8 white jerseys on the line of scrimmage, I can show you all of the play action passes that we have. We have about, a ton of different ones of them. You can run whatever you want. All you need, we have man on man and man on man. All you need is anybody that can beat him him, or you have a tight end that can beat him. And you can run any route that you want if you can beat all those three. We knew from a pre-snap from our scout that this receiver out here could beat him, especially if he did any play action. This safety was going to be automatically locked up on him man to man. As soon as they saw any play fake, boom. And because of this, we got a guy that is completely wide ass open, and there's nobody left to cover the guy. Our offensive line technique lends itself to all of these play action passes. Now, this left guard, this is what I want. This is the guy that we saw on the sled a couple minutes ago. This is our left guard from this past year. First step, pulls. His hips are square to the play side to where he's going, end of the line of scrimmage. He doesn't have to slow down. He goes and blows the guy up. He's not downfield. Plus, refs never call downfield anyway. Look at the ref right here. He's staring at our right guard go downfield. And he's probably talking to him or something like that. Another example of our counter tray. Again, this is out of the double tight. Same thing here. You can take a look. All the speed and the footwork that those guys are going on, those guys are moving their feet quickly. This, again, if you look at our tight end right here, he's wearing an ineligible number, which was fine. He's doing half man right here. Half man right, boom, he's into that guy's frame. This guy right here was about 330 pounds. These two were about 210. But we're able to get movement because their technique is very sound. And again, because we're able to create movement at that point of contact, we've got a huge running lane that we're able to run through, okay? Pulling guard, let's see. Does he get his hips square to the target? Decent, not great. He's got to pull that elbow a little bit better. See, he's kind of drifting right there. I want to see an elbow pull. Pulling tackle or right tackle, he is pulling that elbow pretty decently. His hips are square. He's able to pick up that play side linebacker. It's his assignment. Because of that, we're able to get yards. Here's an end zone view. Our end zone was in the wrong side, but it's a pretty good look of the play of the footwork that we're trying to get onto here. Again, the best one to look at right here, this tight end. He's doing that half man right technique. It's all physics and common sense. His hips are square. He's got good pad level. He's got a good clean. He thought he was going to be coming off onto 44, but that kid's lost into a pile, so we don't need to block him. Okay, this is where we decided that we were going to try and do what we normally did, but we were going to do it out of multiple formations. So this line is blocking this play the exact same as they did the previous play. They didn't have to memorize anything new. We're doing it out of a different formation. We're doing it out of an RPO. Our quarterback has the option here. To hit this RPO. We have an RPO that's designed for him on a flare. We have an RPO that's designed for him down the sideline. And we have an RPO that's designed for him on a hitch. We stole all those from Corona Centennial because they had a lot of success doing it against us. So we decided to take it. Because of this, we can see that we don't have any numbers out here. We're decent on the inside. So our quarterback is deciding this is now a run option. The run option now, he's reading this defensive end. So this just becomes a counter read. He's reading this defensive end. If this defensive end sits at all, he's going to hand it. He sits, he's hand the ball off. That's it. If this defensive end came crashing down, quarterback keeps it, pulls, and we got a huge lane to run through. But the line doesn't need to learn anything else. All our line needs to know is we're doing this left tackle. He was the tight end on the previous play. All he needs to know is I'm doing half man right here. Boom, drives it, boom. Everybody else is doing the same thing, pulling tackle and pulling guard. Hip square to target. Our right guard is a little off from where I want. He's got to pull that arm better. Same thing as the last play. Our right tackle, pulling that hip pretty well. Pretty good. They're getting down that line of scrimmage. They pick it up. We got a lot of yards here. It helped to have a runner like this kid. He was pretty dynamic. But getting him into space was a better idea than having him all crammed down inside. This is a veer look. This comes into play. I'm just trying to speed up a little bit. This comes into play when you need just a couple yards. You'll see here, this is a 3rd and 2. This is against Folsom. It's a really good team up in our area. Everybody in the stadium knows that we were just going to hand the ball off and try and pick up the first down. But you can take a look at our tight end here. This is a half man right. half man right from that guy is the load formation. And because of that, you can literally see these guys being lifted off the ground. Because of the technique, physics, common sense, we have better pad level. Take a look at that. We can eat off their backs. Pad level's good, not great, but good. Their hips and their feet are all in unison together. They're all going half man right here. Caving all those guys down, easy first down. Our quarterback, that was a design give. That he wasn't reading that. Now, here's an example RPO that I showed you before where the quarterback keeps it. We're motioning off of it. You can do whatever you want. But this is the exact same play that I showed you 2 plays ago, 3 plays ago, and 4 plays ago. This is just a counter over to the left here. Quarterback is just reading this guy. If he comes down at all, which he did, he's now keeping it, okay? He's reading him. If he comes down at all, quarterback's going to keep it. If he sits, he's going to give it to the runner. We have an RPO option from the beginning. If we have numbers out in space, we do not have numbers out in space. They have 3 guys that are sitting out there. We have 1, 2, 3 guys out there. We don't have numbers. We know that we're doing the run option here. Quarterback keeps it here because it's a design read, but the offensive line is doing the same thing. They don't know where the ball's in. They're doing the exact same thing. Because of that, as a defense, you have to account for an RPO that could go here, here, or here, and you have to account for a counter that can go over here and a quarterback that can go over here. All because you have to respect this offensive line blocking. That makes it really hard as a defense to kind of keep up. You'll see our quarterback keeps it here, comes right around the end. I mean, take a look at this linebacker, 31. Take a look at him. This is what this type of movement does to a kid. He's running the wrong way while our quarterback is running with the ball right by him. I'm going to get into one more play action. That is a good one. And then answer any questions, put my email up. Hopefully this loads. Here you go. This is the exact same play that I just showed you about 400 times. The offensive line is blocking it the exact same way, but all we're doing here, simple boot, put this guy out in space. Because of that, and this is an exceptional team, one of the best teams that we've ever faced. This is the St. John Bosco from this past year. Here, they're committing everybody in here to the run, so we want to make them try and pay a little bit, get somebody out in the flat. Now, if this guy was sitting right on him, we have a deep out from this guy, and our quarterback is a running option as well. They can't cover all of it. They can't cover the run option out there on the counter and all the play action passes that we have. I have a ton more clips like that, but again, understandably, we're limited on time a little bit here. Coach, I'm going to type in my email address right here. And if anybody wants to reach out to me for any of the coaching points that we have, feel free to email that email address right now at any time, alumbaughj@dlshs.org. And then obviously, if you guys need any huddle cut-ups or anything like that, or full game films where you can see us switching between the option that we have and the counter tray and all the play action passes, I'm happy to share. We're an open book.
Fantastic, Coach. Thanks a lot. I mean, that's a lot of detail and it's so much success behind all that stuff, and sometimes you keep it simple and like you said, thousands of reps. You really see why you guys blow so many people out. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, we don't deviate from that. It's simple. We give them no loopholes or anything like that. We try and stay straightforward and give them very simple coaching points so that teenagers, they're going to try and get out of any loophole you give them. So we try and tighten those loopholes.
Right. Awesome. How are you guys doing up there? How's everything for you?
Good. We're hoping to get back working out in 2 weeks is what we're hoping. We're still pretty much on lockdown, but looks like we need our county to loosen up. We're in the Bay Area, so it's pretty tight up here. But weather's heating up, so we need to get out there and get practicing a little bit like that. You guys are back a little earlier than us, which I'm jealous of, but hopefully we'll be back in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, nice. Very good. Well, everybody's in the same position, you know, and we're just trying to do the right thing and get back with our kids. And I know you're busy, Coach, and I appreciate you coming on and talking some ball with us. Really good stuff. Next time I'm up in the Bay Area, I'll look you up and we can talk some ball. It'd be my pleasure.
Absolutely. We'll have Jacoby take us out and pay for us. He owes us.
Sounds good to me.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Again, Coach, thank you. I know these guys appreciate it, and we'll catch up. Stay safe out there, and good luck to you guys. Thanks again.
You too. Thanks for joining, everybody.